Israel just buy out TikTok? We're going to deep dive this tonight on the Patriots table. And we have my lovely wife Andrea joining us again. So, with everything going on, with the obvious load of bullcrap FBI's feeding us on the Charlie Kirk assassination, everything, I think this is one of those things that kind of just slip by in the background. People aren't noticing that there's a big thing going on with TikTok in America, and we're gonna dive into this. So a lot of people probably don't know that we have a couple companies that are involved in buying out TikTok in America. We have Oracle and Skydance are going to be owning 90% of the TikTok shares for America. So China's going to be no longer involved with TikTok. Now, what's Oracle? What's Skydance? Now, Andrea, do you want to chime in a little bit on, start with Oracle. We can go into
Um,
Skydance
I
afterwards.
mean, Oracle's owned by Larry Ellison, and what's interesting, going through his past history here, one of his first projects was with Ampex Corporation, and it involved the CIA. So one of his early days in the tech world was working with the CIA. That's interesting. And he has a lot of political involvement. I have a picture here I probably should have sent you, but he was working with Pompeo back in 2020. So that's interesting if you know the background of Mike Pompeo. He's CIA. He worked under the Trump administration as Secretary of State. He was very critical of Snowden, who was the NSA whistleblower. So he has a lot of ties in politics, basically the right-wing version of Bill Gates.
All right, so he's the right wing Bill Gates. He's the co-founder of Oracle, which is a big tech company. And Oracle's done a lot here. So I see back in September, after 9/11, Ellison used Oracle to donate digital software to the federal government that would enable it to build and run national identification databases to issue ID cards. So goes right along with you said, involved in politics, working with the federal government. Now, what's really interesting to me is that you have a lot of ties from Oracle to Israel. They quick Google search, you can find out Oracle's invested $319 million in its first cloud infrastructure, which is just a data center in Jerusalem, and that became operational as of October of 2021. And it's also has announced that it has plans to build a second data center in Israel, which would double its infrastructure investment in the country. Now, so Oracle obviously has a lot of business interests in Israel. We're getting up close to $1 billion worth of infrastructure in Israel. And then I've also doing just a little bit of digging in Ellison's financial ties, personal financial ties, not even his company, just his personal financial ties in Israel. In 2017, he donated $16.6 million to the FIDF, which, if you don't know what that is the Friends of the Israeli Defense Force. So that money essentially ends up getting moved over to the IDF. He donated another $10 million in 2014. So he's more than $26 million in total to the FIDF since 2014 to present. He also donated $500,000 to fortify a community center in Sderot, which is near the Gaza border. Has been frequently targeted by rockets. Ellison's funded archaeological excavations in East Jerusalem. So he's got several ties, and then he has hosted Benjamin Netanyahu at his own house on more than one occasion. So we have close ties to Netanyahu. So you have his company buying out TikTok, along with another company, Skydance, which his son, David Ellison, runs, is CEO of Skydance, which, crazy enough, just recently merged with Paramount, which gave David Ellison control over CBS, another major media network in the US. So we have people with very close ties to Israel obtaining the TikTok, which is the largest social media platform for the younger generation now. I mean, it's second to none. I mean, Facebook, more of the millennials and stuff like that. You get younger than that, everybody's on TikTok. Anybody in high school or in college is on TikTok and uses TikTok now. I mean, Ravi, I want to give you some chance to get some thoughts on all
let's
this.
remind everybody why TikTok was handed over or like was bought by the US interests. Right? So it was basically sold to us as a means of protecting the American data of American people and in the area of national security. So because the Chinese own TikTok and we didn't want the Chinese to have our personal data and for them to data mine everything that we were doing. So that's the argument to sell it. But then who they sold it to, as you explained, is completely inappropriate because now somebody who has obviously shown complete allegiance and has close ties to a different foreign country is now managing it. So I guess we have to ask the question, is it better for the Zionists to have our data or the Chinese to have our data? I don't know. I mean, that's a that's a question that people should be asking, right? So we have to like kind of go back and look at what the problem is here, I guess. I mean, like most people don't probably realize that what is happening in the background with all of this, the the New World Order, the expansion of the Israel state, the genocide in Gaza, these are all connected. I mean, in one way or the other, because they own the United Nations, they own the United States, they own many other international countries. So they basically, everybody's doing their bidding. So I've always asked this question, like, who's going to be doing this one world government? I mean, like, who are these people? Is it the UN? I mean, like, obviously the UN is not, nobody really cares about those people anymore. And of the UN now, if you like think about it, there are like 194 whatever countries. 157 of them have now recognized Palestine as a state. Okay. And there are 5 permanent members of the UN, out of which 4 have recognized Palestine. The only one standing out, not recognizing it as a state, is the United States. So that's very telling to me. I mean, like, what is going on here? Why is the US so reliant on, promoting and coddling Israeli interests? That's, I guess, the primary question that I have in my mind. What is going on? Why is it happening? And why are they? So basically, what has happened now with TikTok getting into the US interest buying out TikTok is that now all of the media that we claimed was being run by the left is now again being run by the opposite side. So it's like becoming a one political party running the media and controlling it. So obviously, TikTok, if they allowed people to make videos about what was going on in Gaza and the genocide that's going on in there and whatever that was on there, is probably not going to be allowed anymore, because I read somewhere that they're going to completely revamp the platform and it'll be not available for the US users for a certain time until the new one is put back on. So basically, we are going to lose another platform where things were allowed freely on there where people could actually express themselves. So now, will the younger, I mean, like you said, it's just the younger generation that's like using it mostly. I mean, there are some others using it as well, but it's mostly the Gen Z, Gen Alpha crowd that's using that platform. And this is the crowd that I think they are really trying to impress upon, that we need to support Israel no matter what they do, and nothing's bad's happening. It's all Hamas. And this is one of the reasons why I think Charlie Kirk got bumped off, because he was he was starting to see what was going on the opposite side of the spectrum, and he was trying to actually come out with it. And he had a large following of college students in that age group. So
Right.
that was not going to be allowed, because he could have easily run for president in the next. I don't know if he had any intentions or not, but he was eligible to run for president in the next presidential election. And Trump, as far as I'm concerned, he has not delivered on the promise on the certain promises that a majority of the people who voted him to do. He hasn't done that. In fact, he has completely flipped the script, and he's like on a different agenda, on this completely different track at this point. So, with that in mind, I mean, like, I think there's certain amount of panic in that camp about who's going to run. I mean, JD Vance is doing his bidding. I mean, he's not saying anything different. Okay, and then there's a whole religious crowd behind all of these people, supporting him. But that crowd is not going to be enough to make them win, 2028. So that's, I think, the prize. The I is on that prize, and whatever they're trying to do now is nothing more than censor speech, censor things that they don't like us talking about. In fact, even these platforms, at some point they'll find some excuse regarding national security or whatever. I mean, it all reminds me of going back to 9/11, right? When 9/11 occurred, people just gave the government whatever they wanted to keep them safe. And this is exactly what's happening now. I mean, they are using the same playbook and telling us that, well, China is stealing our national security information and all of our, so we need to censor all these platforms that China has access to. I think that's a lot of BS, because, if China wants that information, they have enough people inside the US that can provide them with that. I mean, we all know that. I mean, like,
Right.
money
Right.
talks, right? That doesn't mean that we need to censor people's expression and their right to free speech to protect us. I don't believe that any government really has any intention of protecting us from anything. They are protecting their own self interest. So that's the bottom line. That's where I see this going, and that's where that the sad thing is, a lot of people, just like they did during 2001 when 9/11 occurred, they are doing the same mistake all over again. People don't learn. And granted, like, you guys are probably, I don't know, probably don't remember much of 9/11. I mean, I remember it. But see, as soon as a new generation or, younger generation becomes of age, they forget what happened, 25 years ago. I mean, you guys are probably like 5, 6 years old or even younger, right? So chances are you don't necessarily remember all the details. And I think this is one of the reasons I like the fact that Tucker Carlson is bringing that out right now. I mean, he's doing this whole 9/11, rehashing 9/11, and people are wondering why. And I think this is a great opportunity and a great time to do it, because we have a whole generation of millennials like yourselves coming up who know about 9/11 from reading about stuff and seeing things and viewing things and critically thinking about things. But there are certain things that you probably haven't really realized what happened, how, and when. Okay. And I think that's a great thing. And you can already see that they're starting to roll their eyes and start attacking the guy, because he's trying to get a new commission reinstated to reinvestigate what actually happened during 9/11, which was, for me, I mean, it's like deja vu. I mean, I watched it and I was dumbfounded at how the American
Mhm.
people responded to it. And here we are, 25 years later or 24 years later, repeating the same mistakes all over again. And it was the same reasons that people gave it back then too, right? It was all about, the people who hated us. It was religion. It was this, that, and the other. It's the same kind of playbook. It's like on repeat play. And we need to be careful because this time there's technology behind them. There are things that they can make and do that we could not tell the difference between,
Mm-hmm.
right? Between reality and what is fake. Those things are not, I mean, they were not there 24 years ago. So when they said something and then we saw what was happening, we knew it was BS right away. I mean, right now it's very hard. I mean, we're still trying to figure out like where Charlie Kirk was shot from. I mean, that's the because I have seen 5 different videos of people
Mm-hmm.
showing things 5 different ways. So they can use that to confuse people, right? So you can confuse people to a point where people are going to say they're going to just throw their arms up and say, you know what? I don't get this and I don't care anymore. This is like too confusing, whatever. And I see people doing this already. Yeah. Exactly. So I have people who I know are critical thinkers who are arguing with me that I don't have the evidence to blame Israel for what happened. So the FBI story might be true, and I'm like, if they did something, it was a covert operation. They are going to make sure they leave no evidence behind. You're not going to be able to go to court and say, "Hey, here's the evidence that the Mossad did the killing." You're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They're not going to leave any evidence behind. So that alone to me is stupid because you're asking me to show you something that is not going to be there because that's how those things kind of work. I mean, it took us 60 years to figure out like the JFK killing was not what they told us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 62
Well,
years later. So
yeah.
anyway, I
Well,
mean,
and
like,
I mean, add to that the hyper emotionalism around it. I mean, you have people going, "Oh, can you let us more? And you just need to shut up and stop asking questions."
oh, yeah, somebody
Like,
told me that. I remember.
why are we required to shut up because you want to be stuck in your
Yeah,
emotions? Like, like we're not responsible for that. And two, like, why are you all of a sudden just buying everything you're sold? And the government never ceases a good opportunity to use everybody. Like, what better way than everybody being stuck in their feelings and this horrific thing that happened to Charlie Kirk than to implement yet more control and more loss of freedom? I mean,
yeah, yeah. No, this is exactly what I mean. Like, this is what and it comes from the fact that there's two things that drive people's emotions to a point where they just stop thinking like normal critical thinking people and they just become like, sheep, for lack of a better word, right? It's basically fear. And we saw this during COVID very clearly, not only in the US, around the world. And then the other thing is religious dogma. Like if your church feeds you something and then you are firmly believing in this and like, you can form any story you want around it because it's a faith. I mean, you have faith in something that is absolutely true for you and then you refuse to look beyond it. I mean, I see people posting about how Israel was there before Palestine and I'm like, good God. I mean, don't you just pick up a book and read? I mean, like it's
Right.
not rocket science. I mean, this is like documented stuff that people claim that what they are being told or what they heard from someone is true. I mean, they don't know. And we had a couple of people on here who were well read on this subject on this podcast, and we've dissected it to no end. And yet, people will still believe what they want to. So it's a very difficult situation. Like, now you all of a sudden, we are the people, the bad guys, because we are questioning everything. We're not believing the narrative, which of course, I never do. And then, like you said, Andrea, like people will come out and tell you, like, well, you're like hashing this thing over and over again. I mean, like, people are mourning. I'm like, well, you saw what I told that person. I said, you go to a corner and mourn. Let us do the questioning because somebody has to question this. I mean, it's not that we are not mourning. I mean, it's not that we are sad about what happened, but what we're being told is a blatant lie. I mean, there's so many holes in it that it's not even funny anymore, right? Um,
yep.
yeah. So
And
I think
even like,
you found something that you wanted to share about the supposedly the 22-year-old who shot a gun that miraculously stopped inside of, his boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, lover, whatever you call it.
yeah, I just saw today that the boyfriend has gone missing, or in the text message, his lover. And it doesn't anyone find that suspicious now the guy's missing and this is all going on? And and like he never interviewed anyone. We have no interviews with this man. Does anyone else find that suspicious in this situation? Especially if maybe they were wanting to prove he's innocent, or the person that cares about him, why isn't he in interviews and talking? Because that's normally what happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's actually a person of interest, so he should have been interviewed by the FBI right away. I mean, if you catch somebody and then somebody sent you a text message, I mean, he should be considered the prime person of interest, right? And we never even like heard of the guy or saw him, and now he's probably going to end up, dead somewhere in a wood in the forest.
Suicided.
Yeah,
Suicide.
Passed away and
hiding
everything.
somewhere,
Just
and then
masked. Yeah.
Watch, they're gonna find a letter. He's gonna have a letter with him how he couldn't take that his lover did this and he couldn't live with himself, and he's
oh yeah,
gonna
you might be very close to the truth there, yeah, and that might be written by the same AI program.
Oh
right.
God.
It sounds like 1922 or whatever.
It's gonna
It was
read
bad
the same way.
1922.
Yeah,
Like, don't insult old literature books like that, okay?
yeah, yeah. It's like it was like a bad movie script.
You
I
know,
have to say,
it
all the
goes.
videos making fun of it have been fantastic.
Those have been fantastic, but to your point earlier, Rob, you talk about like, the people wouldn't leave. The real people behind this wouldn't leave any trace. Like they would be that good about it, whether it was Mossad or whoever. So it almost makes you, if they're that smart, why is the story, the official story, have so many holes and look so bad? Because
Yeah, they didn't even do a good job.
I don't think these people are stupid. I think they're actually wicked smart. They've pulled some of the biggest cons on the whole country and the world for longer than we've all been alive. So these people aren't stupid. They have methods that have been tested and are true to either completely dupe the citizens or mislead them. So why is the official story so bad? Why are the texts so bad?
That's a tactic they're using, and like I mentioned earlier, I mean, this is to cause enough confusion so that people just get sick of it. And the advantage they have now is that you have AI and you have everybody videotaping everything, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
have now 5 cameras that were recording this event. You have people from 5 different angles who had cell phones who were recording this. So the best way to get the heat, and knowing that the real person who did this didn't leave anything behind, he's never going to get caught, the next best thing to do is to make up some ridiculous story that will confuse people, and you keep changing the story daily too, so that people can't like get a hold of a firm grip of any kind of idea, right? So like one day immediately after the killing, it was this old Jewish guy who was acting suspicious, and immediately they release him. They catch the 22-year-old guy who jumped out of a roof, with a gun in his pant pocket or whatever, and then he reassembled it in the forest. So I mean, all of these things are so ridiculous that at some point you're going to just like give up. I mean, you're going to say like, you know what? I mean, it's like everything else.
Or
They would just
they're
say,
having the left and the right, and even people on the right, everybody's arguing about mute points. They're arguing over stuff that really doesn't matter to the truth behind who did it, who was behind it, what were the reasoning behind it. We're arguing about assembling and disassembling a gun. We're arguing about whether he was MAGA because of his dad, or was he a leftist? You know, is he trans too? With like, what was his politics? Like, we're arguing about the stupidest stuff, and you know, Candace Owens just dropped on her podcast that she has somebody who took the original footage of a guy running across the roof that they're saying was this 22-year-old. She hasn't released his name to protect his identity, but he has a completely different story that no, that wasn't the person, wasn't wearing, he was with, this person was in full out black tactical gear. The gun that they're saying was the murder weapon, that's not what it looked like. It looked like a shorter military grade, looked like a 223 with like a 10 to 20 round magazine, like completely different than the official story. And this witness claimed to go to the officials, be like, hey, what you guys are looking for, that's not what I saw. And we never heard about it. We never heard a thing. Like, it's great.
You won't hear anything that actually will cause you to put the puzzle together. So what they're doing essentially is throwing pieces into the puzzle mix that don't even fit, right? So I mean, like, we haven't even agreed which direction that shot came from. I mean, like, there's half of the crowd.
Where are the bullets at?
Yeah, right. I mean, like,
they didn't find okay. And there's been numerous people that have come out, people, you know, that know guns. The caliber of round that they're saying he was hit with, I'm sorry, I don't care how wonderful of a person Charlie was, his bones are not going to stop that round. And there are people who are saying the exact, like, actually that would have left, you know, a hole yay big on the other side. Like, that would have removed, you would have almost seen Charlie Kirk get decapitated on screen. Like, it would, like, that's how bad that would have played out. So that actually more so even goes to what this unnamed witness that Candace has been talking to supports, that it was probably more of a caliber of a 223.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have watched a couple of videos from ballistics experts. I mean, they've gotten hold of camera angles from different, you know, on-site cameras that they had, and videos from people who were around. And from what they can tell, the shot came in right around the right ear and exited on the left side, which is consistent with the, you know, the wire getting billowing the shirt, and then the way the neck, you know, kind of like, you know, got tilted. I mean, that all because it probably went through the spine. So the chances are that that bullet exited. So if it did, I mean, I'm no ballistics expert, and you guys are more expert with guns than I do, and I'm pretty sure, like, the majority of people that I have seen and heard online on various social media sites who are hunters, who definitely don't believe the non-exiting bullet theory. They don't care. They even say that if it was even a much smaller caliber, it would have still come out, depending on, you know, based on the distance and the angle and all that stuff, which I believe. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there is no way that, you know, his bones were made out of steel or whatever that would stop a bullet. That's not possible. So that alone is a lie. I mean, like, so, and the angle, the last one I saw, which made the most sense, was that where the bullet would have actually exited and gone into the ground somewhere along the, you know, without going into the crowd, which makes sense too, because nobody else, you know, even if it came out, somebody else around there would have got hit because there were a lot of people around him on both sides, right? We knew that, seeing from the videos. So somebody is lying. And if it's being done on purpose, then yeah, I mean, like, you know, people have questions. So, given everything that we have been talking about, you know, about Charlie Kirk, his assassination, the bullet, everything, I mean, like, the shooter, a lot of things are not adding up. So either somebody is lying about this, right? I mean, is it the FBI? Is, you know, who's doing all the, like something doesn't feel right. I don't know, Andre. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I saw today, I didn't get to finish it, but Candace was talking about employees on the inside and some other people talking to her about issues inside Turning Point to do with finances and how money was being used and the direction Turning Point was going. She claimed that a week or two before Charlie's death, he was discussing and dealing with these issues too. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think I
I
remember. I
mean,
mean, I don't remember exactly like where I saw this, but there were people who were commenting about, uh, things that were going on, like past of his wife and like her connections and that kind of stuff as well. So there's a lot of unknowns, and today I think I saw a brief interview with Dan Bongino, and he was like adamant that they have information that they're going to release pretty soon, and they're doing everything possible, looking at every aspect of the story. I've never seen the FBI ever considering quote unquote conspiracy theories that are online. And I think, he mentioned a couple of those that appeared to be like things that people have been actually talking about. So I'm not sure exactly if the FBI is at this point clueless, or if they're like actually taking everything into consideration and they're really doing the digging into this whole thing and telling us. And, he promised that he was going to be very transparent. And obviously, I understand, as well as everybody else understands, you cannot divulge everything when an active investigation is going on. But certain questions can be asked and certain questions can be answered. Like, for example, I have a question about, given the fact, as we talked earlier, about how the suspected bullet entered Charlie and then apparently exited, which now somebody's lying because we were only told there was no exit wound. But many ballistic experts have actually come out and said that, that kind of thing cannot be without an exit. It has to have entered from the right and exited to the left. Considering the angles that the bullet may have been like in the ground somewhere or something like that, I don't know. But why did they pave that area and get rid of the crime scene? I mean, like usually if you're investigating something really deep and there's a crime scene, you don't go, just within a week and then, clean that whole area up. So I don't know, something doesn't seem right. It'll be great if the FBI follows through with their investigation. It's definitely, most people now know that it's not the guy that they have in custody. And I think, Trey, I think you mentioned earlier too that the lover is missing. And we don't know where he is or what happened. So there's a lot of stuff going on. People start making up stories when they don't have information. They fill the void, right? And
Yeah.
all we have to go by is what we have, what we know, and what is being said by people we trust. That's all we have right now. And unfortunately for us, the government is not high on the trust list. Although there are some people within our communities who think that suddenly the government is telling us the truth, but I don't believe that because they have never said anything truthful in any of the high profile, assassinations and murder cases. That's kind of my thought about it.
And another thought, since this is table talk, this isn't facts, this isn't saying I know anything, but since there is no factual answers, it seemed like a lot of groups of people had a lot to gain from Charlie's death. I mean, just look at everything happening. That makes me question even more the more this unfolds and there's not a lot of answers, because if he was having issues in Turning Point, he was having issues in the way he was speaking and where he was directing things. Obviously, people weren't happy about him speaking up about the government of Israel, and he was making that clear. Then there's a lot of parties involved that could have wanted him dead. Right? What do you
I,
think?
I mean, you look at the money. People have been talking about the money he's turned down, donors that had pulled away for simple stuff like having Tucker speak at events. There was a article from a newspaper in Israel having that compared Tucker interviewing the, president of Iran with like Joseph Goebbels from the Nazi Party being on CBS. So, there's obviously he definitely wasn't making friends. But if you have, and it's pretty obvious, we have a lot of Zionists in our government, and that is backing and supporting Israel, and seems that they're putting Israel before America. If they weren't happy with what Charlie was doing, I mean, it just opens up so many different questions as to who, the hows, and the whys. Because, like you said, there's a lot of people that is benefiting from Charlie's death. There's a huge hole left from Charlie, because he was a moral man. I mean, they were ties. He was his PR person was on the Charlie Kirk show, and he was talking and he was answering some questions. And one thing he said, is Charlie, even if it cost Turning Point money, stuck to his guns on what he thought was best, down to not accepting money from foreign governments. He never accepted foreign money into his organization, to the point of literally stopping wire transfers, like calling them and said, no, don't accept that wire transfer, to even during COVID, not accepting money from the government. And he didn't lay off employees. So like he stuck to his morals and what he thought was right, regardless if there was a dollar sign thrown at it. So a man who can't be bought is not a friend to the corruption at all.
Yeah.
It's the biggest threat. And like we've talked about, he had the biggest influence on the next generation coming into politics and just America period, in the workforce. So he would be a target for the swamp, for Israel, for anybody. Like he was a threat to the establishment, period.
Yeah. You're right. And, I think I posted something on my page today because my mom actually told me when I called her today that this president of Sri Lanka was in the US. And I'm like, I had no idea. I didn't know he was here. So he was actually addressing the UN General Assembly in New York. And one of the things he said, caught my attention. That was that corruption is a very dangerous thing, but not doing anything about corruption is even more dangerous than, doing something about it. And this is a guy, not to digress, but when I was a student in Sri Lanka, there was a people's, uprising. And he was actually one of the leaders of that uprising. He was actually pretty much labeled a domestic, terrorist, like, agitator. He got all the students all riled up, and, they were hunted down, and, like literally they disappeared. But, that was 35 years ago, and over the last 35 years, I mean, they managed to convince people that they were fighting to get rid of corruption. So pretty much like what happened in my small island nation was exactly what happened here, and I was so happy about that because Sri Lanka was almost bankrupt after COVID. Uh, because they followed the dumb COVID rules of the West, and then they just pretty much shut everything down. And that's a country that relies on tourism and things like that. So they pretty much went bankrupt. And these guys managed to convince. I mean, they actually had a uprising, a complete like a people's revolution, and they literally overthrew the government, cleaned out the drained the swamp, which is what we kind of thought that was going to happen with the U.S. By electing, President Trump because he promised to drain the swamp. Didn't say he might be getting, be part of the swamp. Uh, but and they are like literally putting people in jail who were part of the corrupt governments before and getting things back into working order. I mean, if you look at what's happening here, nobody has, like literally gone to jail for doing anything for that, and then we have been now made to believe that nothing happened, with Epstein and all that stuff. I mean, like it bothers me that we are currently supporting an establishment that has done a lot, of things that they have promised, but the key things that they promised to clean up and clear up is not happening. And on top of that, now we see billions of dollars being sent to a foreign country that's committing, according to the entire world, a genocide. And we are supporting it, we are financing it, and we are curbing our freedoms and our speech and everything over here. For if you say anything against these people that we are supporting to carry this kind of crimes against humanity, that we are the problem. Okay, that's the problem. If people don't see this now, I mean, it's going to get worse. It's going to be even worse than COVID. It's going to be worse than anything we've seen before, because what people have forgotten is that slowly we are marching towards this agenda 20 of the United Nations, the 2030 agenda of having like a unified world government. I mean, like, nobody's asking any of these questions anymore because they're so distracted, and they have started to like leader worship people around here and support nations outside of the United States, and that's not what we signed up for, or like have voted for somebody 3 times in a row to get done. I think did you? I think you had a video of somebody. Maybe that's a good time to let people hear what others people from that country is saying about what's going on.
Absolutely. Now, I want to just kind of explain to everybody what we're watching here. I mean, it's kind of in there, but we have the Jewish Israeli intelligence officer Ari Ben Menashe talking about Netanyahu's blackmailing President Trump and the U.S. government, and how, kind of explaining how going about this.
Doesn't get any clearer than that, does it?
No, I mean, you got And that also explains that you start to see some of the dots being connected and the pieces falling into place with stuff like that. Why will Trump release the Epstein files? He ran on releasing the Epstein files. He gets in office, and we go from releasing them to there are no Epstein files to we're only releasing some of them, and then all this crazy stuff's happening to where people were kind of forgetting about the Epstein
Um,
files.
Thomas Massey announced tonight that he has all the votes to release them if they still do that after voting. So that'd
Well,
be
that would
interesting.
Well, they're going to find a way because the court. I think the
national
courts
security.
can, yeah, the courts will block them, or they'll say they'll complain it's against national security. I mean, you can see how far this has gone. I mean, the guy obviously mentioned Bill Clinton, but I mean, this is way past Bill Clinton. I think the last president who was probably not, held blackmailed was probably Ronald Reagan, and that was 36 years ago. So they've had plenty of time to infiltrate all of the entire government, the establishment, the judicial system, the education system, the banking system. I mean, these people are everywhere. I mean, if you just look at it, look at the people who are running these shows. I mean, that's who they are, and they all support the same thing. Okay, so I don't even like know how anyone is going to come in after this. I mean, Trump was the last card that we had, I think, because he came in. I'm pretty sure he came in with the right idea, but he didn't realize how they had trapped him as well into this whole, thing where like he couldn't back out of it anymore. The U.S. government basically, I mean, is not run by the U.S. people or the U.S. Elected representatives, according to this, uh, intelligence officer or ex-intelligence officer. I mean, this guy, he has nothing to gain by lying and everything to lose by telling us the
Right, right.
story, right? I mean, you can see what's happening. So then when people ask me, like, so well, you don't have any proof that the Zionists were behind killing someone who was going against Israel at the time. This is the kind of stuff that you base your logical thinking on. I mean, yeah, we don't have proof because they don't leave behind a set of clues like this clueless 22-year-old apparently did, right? That you can just directly lead yourself to them. So we'll never probably know or have a case against them because they do a job that is professional and they cover up their tracks and no one knows what's going on. So it's a bit of a scary situation right now we're in, and I'm pretty sure like Taco Carlson and Candace are in their crosshairs as well because now those are the people who are digging up the questions and asking the questions that everybody should be asking.
Well, that scares me because, I mean, you see, and obviously can't say for sure what happened with Charlie Kirk. I know that what they're feeding us is a line of BS, but from what it appears, from what Charlie's talked about, is he's really started to speak out against what we're talking about here. But you have essentially two big people, Candace and Tucker, speaking out against this stuff, talking about it, asking questions. Like they just took out they allegedly potentially took out somebody who could have been the next president. He had that much influence and sway and was a morally good person. What's if they're willing to do that, who's to say somebody like Candace or Tucker wouldn't fall prey to the same thing? Um, is it because they're only podcasting? Charlie was actually on the ground. He was actually talking to people.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, even if you didn't agree with, and we didn't agree with everything Charlie talked about, we had
No.
openly disagreed with
Yeah.
him on this show. But listening to that guy talk, listening to him in interviews, that guy was very, very, very intelligent. That
Yeah.
guy had a sharp mind. He could learn, he could pick up stuff and very, very quickly, very quick on his feet. So, like, that's people like him in that position. That's like what we needed. That's what we need to even start to get out of the mess that we're in. Because, like you said, we've had, what, 36 years, if not more, of almost unfettered access for these people to come in and establish whatever they want within our government. So it would take people that really essentially don't have skeletons in their closet. Because everybody who has skeletons in their closet and come out, all they have to do is figure it out. Oh, there's a blackmail. You had Epstein, Epstein's Island, you have all this stuff. So you need people who can't be bought and don't have skeletons in the closet. And we had somebody who couldn't be bought,
Yeah.
and I can't say for sure. I don't think he has skeletons in his closet. And look what happened to him the moment he stepped out of weeks after he stepped out of line. It's, I mean, where do you go from here? What's
I don't
what's
know.
the
It's
path
a good
forward?
question.
What's the solution? I
And
feel
I
like
think I
that
want to make sure that I want to make clear that it's not, I don't think this all started, 36 years. I mean, I think it's been going on for much longer than that. I mean, we all know what JFK's, when he started asking the right questions and criticizing the wrong people, what happened to him, right? So this has been ongoing. I mean, this is the process of keeping the deep state alive and feeding the monster, so to speak. They need these people, and even if good people come in, as we have seen now, they can be easily swayed because nobody wants to die or get bumped off. So there is a, I mean, that brings us to another good question, like in Butler, Pennsylvania, when Trump was talking. I mean, was that really an assassination attempt, or was that like a message, like hey, you better toe the line kind of thing, right? I mean, you don't know that because they have people who are well trained who can carry out whatever they want to do and not be caught. This is the specialty of these professional killers, right?
the
So
only thing I'll say to that, Ravi, is I think with Trump turning his head at the very, very last second, I think we were going to see Trump get bumped off, and it was a near miss. And Trump talked about days after the fact how he had a come to Jesus experience with that and how he found God again. And I think the multi-billionaire had a brush with how he could lose everything and his mortality. And like we've talked about multiple times on the show, the Trump that we have in office not right now is not the Trump of
well, no,
2016 in
that
his first term, you know.
right,
So
right.
I think it was a next time we won't miss type thing. Get in
Yeah, exactly.
line.
That's what I meant to say. I mean, so yeah, you're right. But so the shot not making its finding its home, great. I mean, that was wonderful. It was a miracle. But that doesn't stop them from making that phone call or making that connection and saying, hey, like you just said, next time we won't miss, don't release the Epstein files. Don't start digging all this stuff because the next thing we know, he gets elected, and then the story completely changes. I mean, he's still doing stuff that he said he was going to do, like the immigration issue, the economic situation, all that stuff. I mean, like the tax stuff. I mean, like great stuff. But some of the key things that we were looking for to break free from the modern day colonialism or slavery or whatever you want to call it to a foreign power lay completely on the Epstein case. And now we don't
Yeah.
even, I mean, we were supposed to have his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, testify again in front of Congress. We haven't heard anything about that. I mean, nothing's happening. I mean, no one is going to jail for things that we know happen, right? I mean, they all agreed that they had this ring, that this pedophile ring going on, on his island and whatever, and a lot of people in the top were involved, but they're all scot free. So what does
Well,
that tell you?
I'm going to mention here too on the subject. So today, Trump was asked about Israel and the West Banks, and he said, no, it's been enough. It's time to stop. Like he's not going to allow them to take over the West Bank further. But then his big donor, Miriam Adelson, I think that's how you say her name, wants to be his biggest donor, but she also said as long as Israel's sovereignty over the West Bank. So this is the woman I think was it 100 million she gave to his campaign, and she's the one campaigning against Massey right now. She donated 2 million against him. So now he just came out and said today that he's not going to. He said he's not going to tolerate Israel going for the West Bank. So now will Trump flip flop tomorrow after saying that? Because now one of his biggest donors is that woman. I mean,
Well, I mean,
it just keeps
technically,
going
Trump
on and
shouldn't
on.
care. Like, I mean, like, this is his last term. So, donor or not, I mean, like, he needs to do
Mm.
what is right. And I don't think it's that silly to realize that if Israel gets hold of the West, Gaza and expands their, greater Israel expansion, it's not going to stop there. Because, like Ali mentioned on our previous episode, I mean, they have pretty much got the US to demolish to rubble all of the other countries surrounding Israel. So they can just simply walk into those countries and take those over as well. Nobody's going to stop them.
Mhm.
We are not going to stop them for
And we're
sure.
funding it, which is
We're
a big
funding it
problem.
too. I mean, not we, I mean, taxpayers are funding it. Billions of dollars are going in for Israel's wars. And the only people who are there to stop him is currently Iran. And we have made sure that we have convinced everybody who's, remotely Christian here that Iran is evil. So, I mean, is that really true? Or, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that they're not, our friends or, like great people or whatever, but, or the leaders at least. I know the people there are good. I mean, I have friends in Iran, but it's just the fact that is this the reason why he just didn't like? I mean, we can literally like obliterate them too if they wanted. I mean, Trump threatened to do it, but didn't do it. So is there some other plan going behind that we don't know
Well,
of? I mean, like,
and then another aspect to this, everyone wants to go on and on about Al Qaeda and how horrible they were, and the whole 9/11 topic, okay? And the new leader of Syria is ex Al Qaeda, and he's here in New York this week, sitting with our government in Torrey, New York. Like,
He
what
was
kind of
on the
joke is that?
FBI's most wanted at
yeah,
one point,
Yeah,
right? Like
and
it's
he's walking around New York like you guys are gonna cry about Hamas, but then he's allowed to walk through our country, and that right now in Syria is destabilized. He's burning farms. People are saying he's killing Christians. And we helped make sure that happened because we allowed Israel to go in and overthrow and replace that government. And we've been
yeah.
doing this
Well,
over and
we
over
helped them
again.
too. I mean, like, that's all
Yeah.
Obama did. I know Obama created ISIS and everybody else over there. So
hmm
yeah,
Well, you had
that's
Ron Paul talking about this was what I think was the clip I sent you, Trey, from 2009. He was talking about how the United States and Israel established Hamas and had the Palestinians elect them. Like, and people like on the internet now with this whole situation, oh no, Israel didn't create. And like, no, you can go back and see this went way back.
yeah, yeah.
We just keep
Well, I mean,
repeating
like
the process.
they're like the useful idiots, right? I mean, they need them. As long as they're there, I mean, they can use them as an excuse and everybody else is going to like buy it. That's the reason why Israel is doing what they're doing. And that
And
is entirely not true.
and then what's even more mind blowing to me is like we're going to talk about Gaza like they're separate. Do people not understand what occupied means? Israel
Yeah.
isn't over Gaza, but everybody's acting like, oh no, it can't be a two-state, this and that. And like, then it's that Israel either is over Gaza or they're not. So how can you
Yeah.
sit here and keep saying that it's all on Hamas and this and that when they're literally controlling the territory?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we have seen so many videos come out of Gaza right now telling the world how the occupiers, Israeli occupiers are harassing, not only the Palestinians, but also the Christians over there. So this is, I mean, like, I wish Trump would have the courage to stand up and let the whole Epstein thing blow out. I mean, who cares if it takes down world leaders? We don't care. I mean, like, it doesn't matter. At some point, that's the only way you're going to cut off the arms of this octopus that is standing out there and throttling everybody, getting what they want. I see that as the only solution, but I don't think anytime soon that's going to happen. So we can keep talking about this forever, but I don't think there's an easy solution unless somebody with morals, with courage and determination to stop everything, uh, comes up. And, I don't think people would care at this point, even if they had skeletons in the closet, if they do the right thing.
Hmm. And then
Yeah.
on another note, there's so much going on. James O'Keefe had someone go undercover and interview this guy that works for the DOJ, and doesn't know he's being recorded, and he's saying, "Oh, we knew Epstein was and CIA asset and stuff." So we need to stop coming out saying, "Oh, Epstein, this is the hoax and this and that." Like, just admit the truth, or admit that you're not going to tell us the truth. Like, stop playing games.
Which we know is not going to happen. So
think the best thing we can do, I mean, and people like Candace and Tucker are doing it. People are waking up to this stuff. It just bring awareness and talk about it. Don't shut up about it. Because the moment you shut up about it and accept it is when they've truly won and, they've broken everybody and they've silenced who they need to silence. I mean, we talked about at the beginning of the episode what it looks like they're doing with TikTok, and we're seeing a big swing to the right with the media, and we're just seeing it might just be no more anti-Semitic speech, which means you can't question the government of Israel anymore
Which is
on
an
popular platform. Which, yeah, I mean, I I forget who said it. It might have been Tucker. It might have been somebody else, but I love it so much. It's, welcome to America where we have the freedom to criticize our government, except the foreign government of Israel.
that's
I
true. Yeah.
mean, it's really seems really backwards.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, that might be a start. That might be a start of, them telling, well, you can't criticize us either. I mean, this is how, China and Korea is, right? I mean, like, you can't criticize those governments. Yeah, people don't realize when they give up their freedoms to support people that they have no clue about or what they're doing, because of whatever ingrown beliefs that they have, that in the end, you're the one who's going to suffer because you're going to lose what you have, little freedoms that you have left in this country, which will be sad. So I got
And
times.
but then the other aspect of that too is like every time you bring up the government of Israel, someone will turn around and call you names, or they'll try to say, "Oh, you just hate Jews." No, it has nothing to do with the Jewish people. It doesn't have to do with any people, because when you criticize the government doing corrupt things, it doesn't really matter who it
Right.
is. That's another
Yeah.
thing with like one of the big donors of Turning Point that pulled away. I found out he's also a big supporter and has a lot of involvement with Laura Loomer. And Laura Loomer, as you can see, she claims to be a journalist, but she's got a really big bias in the situation. And it's like you just see how all these things are connected. Like, we didn't want the media controlled, and we started all these new media and podcasts and stuff. And now you see the exact same thing happening to all the new built media. It's all turning into the same thing all over again, just a different form.
Oh, and they've hijacked, and this is what Americans really need to see, is they've hijacked religion to twist people to say, thinking because of your religion, you cannot criticize a government at all. Like, it's there are Jewish people that live here in America that have nothing to do with, and don't mean, and when we talk about all the bad things that they're doing, it has nothing to do with the Jewish people in America. So it doesn't have anything to do with Jewish people at all. A corrupt government is a corrupt government. If a government does evil things, it's doing evil things. It doesn't matter what race or gender you are in the situation. Evil is evil, and you call out evil. And it doesn't matter what religion you cling to either. whether it's Christianity, whether it's Hinduism, whatever the case may be. If you're doing evil things, we're supposed to call out evil. That's part of what a moral society does, is you call out evil. So, and I'll even say, if the government of Israel if it's really all about their holiness and they're the sons and daughters of Abraham and all these things that the Christians in America are saying, shouldn't be that much more abhorrent that the chosen people of God are doing such evil and despicable things? And shouldn't you be saying, this is who you are, you need to act like it, not excusing their behavior because of
Yeah,
what you think they are? I mean, that's
right.
even seems very backwards to me. If you want to buy in that they're the chosen people of God, okay, you should probably start acting like it and at least walk out what you claim to be, because I don't think God condones the genocide and slaughter of innocent women and children at all.
No,
For
not
any
at all.
people.
Oh, but I mean, if you look at religion, they have caused wars and death, and it's like,
Robbie,
I
that's for
don't.
another episode.
I
That's
mean,
for
we could
another
talk
episode.
about
We don't
that, but
have
I can
time for
also
that.
just say I don't think our politicians believe in the religion they're spewing. They're using it because they
yeah,
know
yeah, of
people
course.
will get sucked into it. I don't think Mike Huckabee and Ted Cruz generally believe what they're saying. They're bought and paid for, but they know it'll play on people's emotions and their beliefs. And as long as
Yeah.
they can keep people caged in this box, they got support.
It's all about support and the money and the power. So, all right. Well, we are out of time. We appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode, and we will see you guys on the next one.